Okay, so starting from where we have left with the APT, that is arbitrage pricing theory, and it includes the multi-factor models, means we are taking into account the multi-factors and we are able to provide you the actual return, and actual return are available to us with the help of error, that is our idiosyncratic risk, means the unsystematic risk. Write it down that it is our idiosyncratic risk. Clear? Now I am saying one statement, you just make a note of it. It is about the idiosyncratic risk, or you can say the error term which we are adding to our model. This idiosyncratic risk, this idiosyncratic risk could come from could come from factors could come from factors that are correlated with the stock return, could come from could come from factors that are correlated with the stock's return, but are excluded from the analysis. Means, try to think in this way. This is the return of the stock which you are finding out, and you have used two factors, factor 1, factor 2. Suppose you have used the GDP and you have used interest rates. Clear? But there is one more factor, that is factor 3, which you have not used. Okay, that is inflation. So if you have not used this particular factor, this will enter into the error term. So means what? Error term, our error term can include two things. One is the unsystematic risk, that is the risk which belongs to the organization, as well as systematic risk which we have not included as the factor into our models. Error term can include unsystematic risk as well as systematic risk, and systematic risk only if we forget to take into account any of the factor which are relevant in order to find out our actual return. Now, what is our unsystematic risk? It can be natural disaster, it can be labor strikes, okay, it can be some uncertainty which we are not aware of at present, but in the future it can arrive. Clear? So you have written that idiosyncratic risk could come from factors that are correlated with the stock return. Means this systematic factor, that is inflation, it is correlated with the return, but you forgot to take into your model. So where it will enter? It will enter into the error term. Now next line, it could come from randomness. It could come from randomness and potentially from irrational market behavior, and potentially from irrational market behavior. That's why we call it as an error term. Means it can also include some randomness. Sometimes it happens that market rise, fall, but eventually it will come to its own place. So this rise and fall must be included. Clear? Now when I'm saying the word randomness, the reason is that the events which are related to the firm, okay, such as labor strike or natural disaster, you cannot predict them and they are not frequent, okay, and when they will appear in front of you, you don't know, they are completely random. So we say that our error term is the result of randomness also. Clear? So it include the things which we cannot model, because if we could model, we can make it as a factor, but we cannot model it. That's why it is the part of error term. Now make the next note. The number of factors to include in a model, should as small as possible, should as small as possible. Means you are trying to find out the return of the particular asset, and suppose there are five factors which are able to explain the return, and these five factors suppose constitute 97% of the explanation, but you said no, I want more 3%. So you keep on adding factors, and suppose after adding these four more factors, you said that okay, now I am 99.5% sure. So tell me these four factors which are explaining your 97%, and by adding four more it added only additional 2.5%. So is it better to incorporate? No, because in order to include more and more variables, more and more factors into your model, it makes your model more complex. So try to make your model as simple as possible. So this is the reason the number of factor to include in a model should be as small as possible, but you also make sure that they will capture the systematic risk. Because suppose you thought that okay, we have to keep as small as possible, so let us keep only GDP. I don't want everything in, but GDP is only explaining 60% of the return of the systematic risk. Then you are left with 40%. So this is not the correct way. Include less, but make sure that they will capture the maximum part of the systematic risk. And the simplest version of the multi-factor model is single factor model. Single factor model which directly takes into accounts the market as the factor, Suppose I want to find out the Google return of the Google. I'm using the single factor model, and later I will add more factor into it. So the return of the Google is equals to expected return of the Google. The formula of APT, it start with the expected return plus I include GDP as my first factor. Okay, then beta of GDP multiplied with the factor GDP. Now this factor GDP is the shock, the difference between the actual and the expected, plus what I need to add, error term of Google. Means I want to add the unexpected risk of the Google. Clear? Suppose that expected return of the Google is 10%, beta of the Google is 2, and I'm not giving you the shock, because shock will be in front of you only when you have the actual value. So now suppose you will be having only the original value, the value which you have expected. In that scenario, what is the return? If you know only the expected, this is the return. So if you want to put the value for this formula, you need to have the actual value. Clear? Suppose the actual value is 5%. Actual value is 5%, and the value which you have estimated is 3%. The value which you have estimated is 3% plus our error term of Google. So what is the return coming? 10% plus 4% plus some error term of Google, that is 14% plus error term of Google. So what we have predicted the actual return, you can write it like predicted actual return of Google is 14%. Suppose after 1 year, the actual return, the real return, this is the one which you have predicted. Suppose this is the timeline. You have predicted the return for 1 year. This is 0 and 1. 14% was predicted here for the whole year. But after 1 year, when you reached this point in your life, you found out that the return was 15%. The return was 15%. Now this 15% belongs to the additional 1% belongs to the error term. The additional 1% belongs to the error term. Now this 1%, additional 1% can be the part of unsystematic risk, or it can be the part of systematic risk, the factors which you forgot to incorporate. The factors which you forgot to incorporate. Clear? Now you thought to include one more factor. Now you thought to include one more factor, that is the inflation. Means you have taken the GDP. Now you thought that okay, let us try with the inflation and how much it is working. Suppose this information is given about the inflation, that beta is 0.5, actual was 3%, and what I have expected is 1%. So in this scenario, what will happen? I will add the terms to this part only. So it will be like beta of inflation bracket inflation actual minus inflation expected, that is 0.5, 3 minus 1. So can I say that it is 1 plus error term, 1 plus error term, or 15% plus error term, 15 plus error term, or we can do one more thing, let us assume it 2. Then how much it will be? It will be 0.5 and it will become 14.5, because I want to leave some space for error term. Now see, when you have added one more factor, in this case real was 15 and what you have predicted 14.5%, means now you are more closer to the real return. Now you are more closer to the real return because you have added one more factor which improved the calculation, okay, which improve its efficiency to find out the real return. Clear? So now the error term will be having only 0.5%. Still it can belongs to one systematic risk and some other systematic risk. Might be if I'll include more systematic risk factors, then it will approach say 14.8%. Still I'm more closer. I will add more, it will become 14.9%, means I'm approaching towards the real return. But we have to see that we will keep lesser amount of factors with more predictive ability of our models. Clear? Next, just few key points which we need to write now. Now the way you are making the notes, I can assure you that after going through these notes and given example, you don't have to at all worry about the preparation of the topic. Okay, means it is covering every aspect of the topic. First point, that APT, it is based on the application of multi-factor model. APT is based on the application of a multi-factor model. Second point, write down second point. It relies on a well diversified portfolio. It relies on a well diversified portfolio where 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 our unsystematic risk can be completely diversified away, where our undiversified where our unsystematic risk can be easily diversified away. Now try to understand what is the meaning of the well diversified portfolio. Means it includes the different asset class. Try to mark my word what I'm saying. It must include different asset class, because if you have a single asset, say bonds, and in the bonds you will include many different types of bond. I will not call this portfolio as a diversified portfolio. Why? Because somehow the bonds are correlated. Somehow the bonds are highly correlated. But what happen if I will include the bonds, different bonds into the portfolio, different commodities into the portfolio? Okay, I will include the real estates into the portfolio. I will include the private equity into the portfolio. Means when I try to diversify portfolio, means what? I try to include different asset class into the portfolio, because what happen is that between the different asset of the bond, the correlation is high. Correlation is high, but between the different asset class, the correlation is always low. So how we can diversify the portfolio? When the correlation between two asset is low, our portfolio will be diversified. Clear? So we must include commodities, real estate, firm which are into the auto sector, firm which are into the utility sector. Means we must include a well diversified portfolio. Clear? So we are using the different asset class. Means what? We have the different factors which are going to impact my portfolio, because the factor which are impacting the real estate will be different, factor which are impacting the commodity will be different, factor which are impacting the bond will be different. That's why we are talking about the multi-factor model. Otherwise we would have discussed only CAPM. So because we have a well diversified portfolio which include different assets, we must need to include different factors in order to find out the expected return of the well diversified portfolio. Clear? Write down the third point. Third point is about that the expected return of the well diversified portfolio are proportional to their factor beta. Expected return on a well diversified portfolio are proportional to their factor beta. If the beta is high, if the beta is high, then definitely the return will be high, because it is talking about the risk. If risk is high, then definitely the returns will be high. Clear? Fourth important point, and these points they can institute can play with you just by changing some values, some amount of line. Just if I'll give you a statement, write it down, you will understand. We cannot conclude that we cannot conclude that the APT relationship, that the APT relationship, that the ATP relationship will hold for all security, will hold for all security. Means if there are 10,000 securities in your portfolio, okay, it might happen that APT will hold true for 990 security but not for 10 security. It is possible. You cannot assure that all the security will follow the APT relationship. Means the return which you got with the help of those factors and their beta might be true for 990 security but not for all. There might be some security for which APT relationship will not hold true. Clear? The next statement with respect to this only, you must write it. We can conclude that the APT relationship must hold nearly all security. Nearly all security. See, they are not using the word all security, they are using the word nearly all, just like I have given you the example. So in the exam they can say the statement that can we concluded that the APT relationship will hold for all security. Okay, and you have to identify which statement is correct or which statement is incorrect. You will feel that it is correct, but the real term is nearly all, not all, nearly all. Clear? Now coming to our next point, that is hedging exposure to multiple factor. Hedging exposure to multiple factor. Now I'm just first of all giving you the basics behind this. Suppose you hold 1000 securities in your portfolio. Clear? Now do you think that if you want to hedge your portfolio, you need to create the hedging position for all of your 1000 securities? And in order to hedge 1000 security, it is going to be very difficult. But you have created different factors. You have created different factors which are impacting your securities, and they are explaining approx 98% of your sensitivity of your factor with respect of your portfolio with respect to the factor. Means one is inflation, one is GDP, one is interest rate, the other is the commodity prices. Now, when I'm taking these four factors, they are able to explain 98% of my portfolio, leaving 2% as an error term. So now, what do you think? Is it okay to hedge 1000 security or to hedge these four factors based on their weights? Based on their weights. And what are their weights? Their weights are their beta. Their weights are their beta, because you cannot hedge 100% of the inflation. You have to hedge in proportion to your portfolio. Means it is impacting only 40%. Inflation is impacting 40% to your security, so you need to hedge only 40% of the inflation. You don't need to hedge full 100%. Similarly, GDP is impacting only 20% of your portfolio, so you need to hedge 20%. So based on their betas, what we have to do, we need to create a model in such a way, hedging strategy in such a way, that after we hedge all these four, the beta of my portfolio will become 1. And when beta will become to 1 means what? I am completely hedged. Clear? Okay, so now suppose I'll be having the portfolio of 1000 assets, 1000 securities, whose sensitivity to GDP is say 60% or 0.6. Clear? In that case, if I want to hedge my portfolio from the point of view of the GDP, I need to find another asset. I need to find some other asset whose beta for GDP is also equals to 0.6, whose beta for the GDP is 0.6. So I am long on my portfolio. So what I can do? I can short this asset. So long on GDP by 0.6, short on GDP by 0.6 means what? I am neutralized for the GDP. But yes, there is 0.40. But suppose there is 0.40 for some other factor, say inflation. So while trying to hedge your portfolio with respect to GDP, you have taken another factor. Into account, that is inflation. Now you are safe with respect to GDP, but you are having the risk of inflation. But you feel that inflation are going to be stable, they are not going to impact your portfolio. So in that case, you prefer this asset. But suppose you feel the fear from inflation, so this asset will not work for you. You can go for some, say, another asset C, who will be having the beta for GDP is 0.6, but the remaining beta is divided into two different factors. One is the interest rate, another is the unemployment. So means what? You have secured yourself from the GDP, but you are open to inflation and unemployment by 0.2. But suppose you also have the unemployment factor, means your portfolio is having the risk with respect to unemployment factor by 0.2. So in that case, can you say by short selling this asset, you have protected yourself from the GDP as well as from the Unemployment means you are open only to 0.2 with respect to interest rate. Means what? You are trying to hedge yourself. You are trying to hedge yourself with respect to some factors. With respect to some factors. Clear? But again, you will say that I don't want additional factors that will impact me. So you find out another asset. You got to find out another asset who will be having the GDP factor 0.6, unemployment factor 0.2, and the remaining 0.2 is invested in the risk free asset. So risk free asset do not have any beta. So means now your portfolio is completely hedged. Now your portfolio, I can say, is completely hedged with respect to GDP as well as unemployment. Clear? So first you can choose for the asset 1 or asset A, which is protecting you with respect to only GDP, but giving you additional factor risk, that is inflation, and leaving your unemployment factor open. Okay, you went to asset C, which is protecting your GDP, which is protecting your unemployment, but giving you additional risk with respect to interest rate. So you went to another asset D, which is protecting your GDP as well as your unemployment. Clear? So what is the benefit? The benefit is that you don't need to hedge all your security. What you need to hedge? You need to hedge your only the factors which are impacting your portfolio. So it will become simple. It will become easy for you to manage as well as hedge your portfolio. So now what you are doing? This was your portfolio of 1000 security, and there is one asset. You are long on this portfolio and you short this portfolio. So means what? You are risk neutral. You have completely hedged your position. Now after the hedging, you must be thinking that what is the expected return of the portfolio? Suppose it was 10%. And what is the expected return of this portfolio? Suppose it was 12%. Oh, take it 8%. It is 8%. So in this scenario, what you can observe is that I am long on this and I am short on this. Even after hedging my position, I am earning a riskless 2%. Try to think. Your portfolio is giving you 10%. Your portfolio is giving you 10%. The asset D expected return is 8%. And you are long on your portfolio and short on the asset D. Means you are having the 2% return and you also make them riskless, because all the factors you have already taken in such a way that they are neutralizing each other. So means your 2% is risk free return. Means there is an arbitrage opportunity. What if the expected return of the portfolio is 12% and the expected return of the asset is 18%? In this case, what you will do? You will take a long position in asset A and short position in the portfolio. Means what? You are earning 6% and they both are neutralizing each other with respect to risk. So this is your arbitrage opportunity. But every time it will not hold true, because you are creating a model. Might be the model which you have created, there are some other factors which are open which you have not taken. Might be the error term is higher. So there is the potential error in the model which can create the model risk, because this is your calculation that your portfolio is risky by 0.6 with respect to GDP. But in reality there are some other factors. Which are impacting your portfolio and which you haven't hedged. So this can give you the potential risk. Clear? So we call this as the model risk, because my model is not 100% accurate. Even if I am 99% accurate, there is a still scope of 0.01% error. Might be, what if the sensitivity of the factor keep on changing? The moment you estimated and the moment you enter into the hedging strategy, and after few moments, what if the beta changes? Because beta can change. The sensitivity of the factor can change with respect to the changing market scenarios. Clear? What if different factors are started impacting after you have taken this strategy? Means suppose you have taken this strategy on 1/1/2021. You have been long in portfolio and short in asset D. So in this scenario, you found out that on 5th of January 2021, there is a new factor which is impacting the portfolio, that is commodity pricing. Okay, it started impacting the portfolio. So there is a new risk. Now you need to hedge that as well. You need to add more factors to hedge it. You need to add more asset to hedge it. So means it is an active management. And active management will need lots of buying and selling, frequent rebalancing. It can incur huge amount of cost. It can incur huge amount of cost with respect to transaction, with respect to management. Sometimes it can happen that whatever profit you are estimating, it will turn out to be a loss for you. Clear? So make a note and write it down. Make a note and write it down. Error could also be present. Error could also be present if the hedging strategy Error could also be present if the hedging strategy is either rebalanced too infrequently, or too often. Trading cost from frequent rebalancing, could erode profits, and infrequent rebalancing could result from could risk undesired exposures as relationship dynamically changes in the market, and which is impacting my beta. Clear? Yes, hedging is fruitful but not 100%. It can create the risk to your portfolio. Clear? Okay, so there is one issue with the APT, that it is not telling us what factors to use. It is up to the analyst to choose the factor based on their asset. But there is one model, okay, like CAPM is a model because it is telling you about the factors to use. APT is a theory just explaining you what to do, what not to do, and do of your own. They are just giving you the basics, okay, that how you can price. But again, we are coming up with the Fama French 3-factor model. Now again, this is a model, means now it will tell you the strict rules which you have to follow. CAPM, strict rules. Fama French model, strict rules. APT, just a theory telling you about the basics of pricing. Rest is up to the analyst, that how he or she price. So now coming to our portion of Fama French 3-factor model, means what? It is signifying that you have to use 3 factors. With these 3 factors, you have to price an asset. You need to find out the expected return. So APT is giving you actual return. Model is giving you expected return. Again, this is a model giving you expected return. Clear? Okay. So let us start with our Fama French model. So this is similar to our CAPM. What is CAPM? Expected return, or the required return of equity is RF plus beta RM minus RF. Clear? Now this is the one factor apart from this, I have added two more factors. Apart from this, I have added two more factors to make it a Fama French three factor models. Clear? What are those two factors? One is SML and another is HML. And RM minus RF can be represented as risk premium or RP. Clear? SML, HML and RP. These are the three factors, okay, which make it a Fama French three factor model. Along with this, we can use an error term that will include our idiosyncratic company specific risk. Now, what is this SML? This is about the small cap and large cap. This is about the high book value and low book value. Means we are not using any macroeconomic factors, but we are using small cap, large cap, high book value, low book value to capture our systematic risk. This is capturing the whole market. This is capturing the whole market. This factor is capturing the small cap minus large cap. F means minus, M means minus. This high book value minus low book value. Now it have been seen that over the past year that small cap give higher return as compared to large cap. High book value stocks will give you higher return as compared to the low book value stock. Clear? Now the beta for the small cap, the beta for the large cap are same. The beta for the high book value and the beta for the low book value is same. Clear? So means what? Effectively, if we'll see that 0.70 is the beta of risk premium. Clear? Suppose 0.20 is the beta of SML and 0.30 is the beta of HML. Clear? Means what? They will cancel out each other. Because you are giving 0.20 beta to small cap minus 0.20 beta to large cap. So means what? They will cancel off each other. Similarly, 0.30 beta you are giving to high book value minus 0.30 beta you are giving to low book value. Clear? So they will cancel off each other. So means if you are investing your money, this will similar to our CAPM model, means 70% of your money invested into the market, 30% of your money invested into the RF. This is the simple thing. The beta will cancel off each other in the Fama French model, because the same beta you are giving to small cap, same beta you are giving to large cap, but small minus large means what? The effect of the beta neutralized. The effect of the beta completely neutralized. Clear? So it is taking the return of the small cap minus the returns of the large cap and the returns of the high book value stock and the returns of the low book value stocks. Now can I say one more thing? These two portions are hedging strategy. How? Because they are neutralizing the impact of the beta. And when beta's impact is neutralized, means what? You are creating an hedging strategy. So SML and HML, they both are your hedging strategy. Now suppose I will provide you the values, such as the RF is given as 5%, then beta of the market is given as 2, and return risk premium of market is suppose given as 3%, then beta of small minus big is given as 0.5, assume, okay, or rather make it 0.5, make it 3, okay, and the return of small minus big is given as approximately 4%. Beta of HML is given as minus 0.25, and return of HML is given as 3%. Now you need to find out the expected return. So how it will work out? It is 5% plus 3% multiplied with 2 plus 4% multiplied with 3 and minus 3% will be multiplied with 0.25. Why I have taken the minus? Because the beta of HML is negative. Now when it is showing me the negative, what is the meaning? If I will say what is the meaning of this, try to understand this. HML, okay, the beta of high book value minus the beta of low book value, and this value is coming negative, means what? The returns of the low book value is higher as compared to the returns of high book value. The returns of low book value is greater than the returns of the high book value. This is the reason that I have taken the negative term. So it will be 5 plus 6 plus 12 minus, it is coming as 0.75. So how much it will be? 23 minus 0.75, that is 22.25 is the expected return from Pharma French model for that particular asset. Now if actual return are not equal to this, that means what? That particular extra belongs to the error term. Now it can include both systematic risk as well as unsystematic risk. Unsystematic risk company specific, and systematic risk because might it can happen that your asset might need more factors. These three factors are unable to describe the 100%, so there is some lack of factors. If I will include those factors, the error term will start decreasing. Clear? So this is the whole about the arbitrage pricing theory and multi-factor models, and we have covered every possible thing that will be helpful for you to complete this topic. Now write down one question: how APT is better than CAPM? Answer: first point, it offers more flexibility. It offers more flexibility as compared to the CAPM. How? By adding more factors into the calculation. By adding more factors into the calculation. Second, APT have lesser APT have lesser assumptions as compared to the CAPM. APT have only 3 assumption. If you remember, what are those 3 assumption? Let us revise. First one is markets are frictionless. Second, participants are seeking to maximize their profit. Third, there is no arbitrage opportunities, and if it exists, then it will be vanished within a few moments. Clear? Also write third point, that it will not include pre-established variables. It will not include pre-established variables in CAPM. In CAPM we have a pre-established variable, that is the expected market return, or we call it as the risk premium, market risk premium. Next point, give it as a remark. Number 1, beta factor can be positive or negative. Beta of the factor can be positive or it can be negative. Clear? Second remark, what is beta? What is beta? Beta of the factor will measure, write down, beta of the factor will measure the relationship between the stock. Beta of the factor will measure the relationship between the stock and the factor. Relationship between the stock and the factor. Write down next remark, that if you keep on adding, if you keep on adding factors, if you keep on adding factors, it will not eliminate company specific risk. If you keep on adding factors, it will not eliminate company specific risk. Clear? Fourth point, factor betas are dynamic in nature. They can change over the period of time. Clear? Okay, so I end this lecture here. Do it properly and complete it. Thank you.